Winner Circle Podcast. We interview dope brands and do community outreach. Check us out. Winner Circle Podcast. We have another great episode today with Uzo Art. Uzo, thank you so much for joining us. Uzo, tell us a little bit about yourself, who you are, where you're from, and what you do.
My name is Uzo, and I am a New York-based artist. I am a fine artist and also a commercial artist, so I work in both worlds. My works extend outside of a canvas. I make wallpaper, I make phone cases, basically anything that art and design can intersect and I create.
That's awesome. I want to talk to you about the early college experiences and the financial struggles. If you can, tell us a little bit about maybe a little about your college experience in the University of Virginia and the financial struggles that you experienced and in correlation to the art field.
Of course. I come from a pretty upper class family. You know, my parents both make a amount of money. And when I came into the University of Virginia, they were paying for my school fees. I was studying statistics. I was really good at stats, and I was studying to be an actuarial scientist.
That's
You
different.
know? Yes, yeah. So I took a lot of probability classes, relational analysis, and a lot of math classes, but I didn't love it. Um, there are kids who talked about their parents who are actual scientists, and I asked them like, "So what do your parents like study?" They studied history, they studied English, and I was like, "Oh, like so you can still end up in this field. You don't have to study it, you know?" And so I remember I talked to my parents a little bit about that. They didn't know what I was talking about, and so I took a year off. And during that year, I just like would do like small little painting recreations. So I didn't start painting until like college, so my second year of college. And I took some community college classes just to keep like, your brain moving, doing some stuff, like, just do not lose your thought of what you've been studying and stuff like that. And I would just post it on Facebook. And then people like I just had so much support from like my friends, people from high school, people from in the past, like, supporting me. And my first sale was to a teacher actually from my I went to boarding school, and she was like a teacher in the middle school portion of it. And she like bought my first artwork. It was like $100. And then I remember like that moment, I remember I sold on Etsy. That was a one-off time I ever sold on Etsy for that painting. And I took a screenshot of that moment. And then like I would start like selling paintings to my classmates for like $20. So that was literally the very base of it. I was doing that, and then I came back to school, and I'm still in statistics. My advisor, statistics advisor, she had a meeting with her, and she's like, "Oh, like, welcome back. And I see you added an art class into your thing, because I couldn't get my parents to understand, so I just added an art class." And I said, "Yeah, I started painting and stuff." So she's like, "Ask, can I see them?" And so I showed it to her, and she said I was in the wrong major, and so I switched. And in doing that switch, coming from an African background, most African parents tend to only understand STEM. I don't fault them because the amount of energy, like the amount of things they had to get through to come to America, I think all they see is just trying to know things that they've seen work. You know, if I cannot explain at that moment how I was going to be a successful artist. So I understand that fear, but some people go about things different ways. So they cut me off and stopped paying for my school fees. There's no school fees coming in, and the school's trying to kick you out. And also, I can afford a place. I can afford where to sleep anymore. Like I'm literally supported and then lost support. So it's never a case of I was never supported at all. I had support, and the moment I switched to art, I lost support, and they weren't speaking to me for a few months. So it was pretty hard. And so I think I went through a court case trying to file because with taxes and stuff, when schools consider scholarships and stuff, they look at your parents' thing, especially if your parents are following you on your taxes. So I'm trying to fight in the court case, trying to file for independence, and I lost the court case. So my parents are not trying to tell me to just come back home, go to community college and study nursing. And I was like, that is so left field. I really get from statistics, and I said I want to do art, and you bring me to nursing. I don't know. I don't understand this. Maybe because nursing works. If I want to do nursing, why would I have even tried doing art? And so I said it. I started getting jobs. I was working at the grocery store at Harris Teeter, and then I also worked at Ulta, and then I also before I left Ulta, then I switched to Michaels, and Michaels definitely had a trajectory on where I am right now. But I was at Ulta working and that, and eventually I lost my housing because now the schools where I'm going to pay them, I can't afford housing anymore. And luckily, I ran into this woman who had her mother that was elderly. She was 96, and she needed someone to take care of her in the nighttime because they lost their night nurse. I had no background. Said that my parents own a healthcare agency, so I do know that I do understand the line of work. And so after classes, after work, I would come home around 10, and I would change her feeding tube, change diapers. I was doing things that I never thought I would do. And so that was literally the things I was going through. And then also, so art is a rich person's game in academia. A lot of the people in these art programs are people who didn't this is not their goal. Like, they just doing it because they can, and they have a safety, which is their parents own companies. They're gonna come and take over, or they're connected, they're great, like you're gonna be fine. And so these programs, the most they teach you how is just like it's like organized practice basically, but no one is teaching you how to make money from it. And I knew my weaknesses. I was never really the strongest at writing about my art. I feel like sometimes the things I paint don't have a story. It's not that deep sometimes. I feel like I focus more because I come from such a technical background with mathematics. How I approach art, how I approach everything is a very technical lens. I'm more focused about the colors and the strokes and things versus some deep story that is just not there. And so, with not knowing how to talk about art in academia, I was not getting funding anyways. So eventually, I came in class of 2018. It took a year off. So my class, my all my friends and everything were graduating, and I'm still in school because now I rerouted to art. And I feel like a loser. I'm not gonna hold you. I feel like a loser. I'm overworking myself, everything like that. I said, okay, maybe I could get a job at a gallery this summer. I did not get a job at a gallery this summer. They all said no. I was like, I just can't do Harris Theater anymore. I need something different. And so I applied to work at a sports club. And I just kind of thinking about like something I've always wanted to put out there. And I said, I'll do a coloring book. And that was my first product ever. I was still in college. I had borrowed my mom's iPad, and then I made the Instagram Uzo Art. And I would just post me working on this book. Every day I would be posting like different ways how I'm working on it. I'll do like little meme promotions for it. And eventually I was like, okay, well, how am I gonna pay for this? How am I gonna publish this? And so I think that was definitely like a starting factor to realizing that like, hey, Google is your friend. Whatever you're trying to find the answer to, there isn't Google is right there. And so I started looking up the idea of self-publishing. And then I started watching some YouTube videos, and then some people talked about the idea of pre-orders. And so with the idea, I posted about the concept of the comic book, and you can buy it, and it was released at this time. And this is a pre-order. And so with that launch, with that announcement for pre-orders available, I remember I made over 700 sales that day. And
Just
that was such, pardon?
just in one day.
Just in one day. And
Wow.
that was a huge catalyst. This with the book success, I didn't just do it online. I started reaching out to like, okay, who would sell books? I know I don't want to go the Barnes Noble route, so I started looking up like independent bookstores. I started learning the language of like book selling. It's like either by wholesale or it's by consignments. Started like literally teaching myself all these things, and I also said, okay, gift stores, museums have gift stores, and they would sell this book. So I started reaching out to like I got to like the VMFA. I got into a few galleries in New York, LA, and Houston. And so that's what I was doing. And the school picked it up, especially the like entrepreneurship alumni. And I had a lot of support from them. I got on the news for NBC about the book because the book was about femininity from all over the world. So in the beginning, it's more very focused on the just different women capturing like all different aspects of it, and at the end, it's more like biographies on certain women. I touched different places from like Oprah Winfrey to Wilma Wallkiller in terms of acting, and like that was the range of what I did. Um, so my last semester, I was getting tired of UVA, Virginia. I got sick of it. I need to get up out of there. And so I remember I applied for a study abroad at University of Arts London at the Central St. Martin's campus. If anybody is an artist that wants to do something that is not in the ordinary, like let's say, that school is different. I would say that there's definitely a difference in the schooling system in terms of arts and like science institutions. That school, everyone was approaching it from different concepts. I saw people who made grills. So they had components, they were wielding, they were tufting rugs, there was screen printing. So they were doing like all different capacities of art, not just painting or drawing. They were doing other parts that made it whole, you know? I remember I still had not gotten to the concept that I was really selling products. I was just like, when people meet me, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm a fine artist, I'm a fine artist, I'm a painter, I'm a painter. And that school, few months I was there, I remember they made us have a show in a rundown club. And so we just got I had to learn and get used to just imagining art and not just a white space, a gallery space, imagining it could be anywhere, you know?
Anywhere.
And that's kind of like what formed my thought process with how I started to formulate products and pick my colors and things like that, because I need a color composition that can enter multiple types of homes and multiple places, and it would find a space in that, in the havoc of whatever anybody has in their space. So that is basically the beginning. I would say that is college.
That is awesome, and it's a lot to unpack from that. I first want to go back to the first $100 painting that you sold. I want to maybe ask you, how did you feel emotionally? I know at that time it's kind of like, hey, I'm still into STEM, I'm still into statistics, but I just sold a painting for $100. Like, what were you thinking at that time? Like,
I think the whole thought process was just to seem as professional as possible, to just seem like it's not my first time, you know? And so I made sure I was on top of shipping, I was on top of sending the forms, like I was like letting it not seem like it's my first time. And I was really excited. I posted about it. It was kind of like an out of body experience to sell something that high at the time to me. I couldn't believe that I was able to make 100 from a painting, and it also spoke to how it is very easy to be able to buy art online.
that's awesome. And then another touch point that I can definitely relate to is the African parent household. So from my understanding, I'm from Sierra Leone, and even to this day, my major was comms in college, and my master's is in strategic comms, PR. And I could say like the first 7 months or so, I had difficulty finding occupation. And prior to that, I was kind of like into account management, account executive type of roles the previous 3 years. And my parents, they always talk about, why don't you go back to school for nursing? Why don't you why don't you go back to school to be a doctor? And again, you said it perfectly. It's not necessarily that our parents are like sticklers for those type of occupations, engineering jobs, or just being a doctor or just being a nurse because it makes lots of money. I think it's because, as you stated, it's a lot, like it took a lot for them to come into this country. And the resources that they had in the previous country that I was in comparison to this, it's not even comparable.
Yeah.
When you come into the country and you realize, hey, if you just put your head down for 4 or 5 years or so, or 6 years approximately, you won't have to worry about ever working paycheck to paycheck or struggle like how we struggle. So I definitely understand that sentiment. But what I would just want to applaud you on is your bravery in terms of just like going against that non-traditional path. And there's nothing wrong with that. We know lots of
Yeah.
engineers and lots of doctors who are doing really well,
Yeah.
but you're a testament of, hey, I'm doing extremely well right now by doing what I love. And the emotional cost of choosing that non-traditional path, I want you to talk about the emotional aspect of that. Like, where are you at now in your mindset? Is it like, I gotta keep pushing?
Yeah. I would say that where I am right now is like, have you ever heard about Maslow's hierarchy of needs?
No, explain that
Yeah.
to me.
So there's like it's like a pyramid, and there's different things you have to achieve to get to the very top, right? So at the very bottom of Maslow's hierarchy of needs is psychological needs, meaning air, water, food, shelter, you know? And once you have, like, clothing, once you have sleep, once you have those things sorted out, then you can move on to the next step, which is safety needs, meaning personal security, employment, you know? How can you worry about employment if you don't have a place to sleep? So it's just like different steps to get up into that. You start worrying about your health, having resources, property. You have now got up to that level where you can worry about these things. And once those are met, you can now focus on, okay, I need friendship, I need intimacy, I need family, I need, these are things that it starts to become important and more important to you as you get up the steps. And then once you have friendship, intimacy, like a sense of connection with people, then you want esteem. You want respect. Need self esteem, status, recognition, strength, freedom. At the very top of that, after esteem, is self actualization, which is a desire to become the most that one can be. And I feel like that's the point I am right now, in this journey. I feel like I have met every single need. And now I'm just doing it because I can and because I think this is bigger than me. I think what I'm trying to do is bigger than me at this point. I'm trying to leave a legacy. And that's where I am. I think what was kind of stopping me, I was stuck in the esteem part for a while because I was trying to get approval from my dad and my parents. I got it from my mom a while ago, but my dad was the one that I really needed. And I remember like when I finally got it, I remember like I broke down. That was I think the time I finally broke out of that. And it was my last show. It was 2023 in New York when I had my Apartment 26 and he was there for that show. And like the look on his face, like he couldn't believe it, you know. And I think that was when I was able to break out of that, the esteem, like the second bar and then go to the very top. And so I would say emotionally right now, my self actualization, I love what I do. I'm very happy with what I do. If I stress myself out, it's by my own hands. And I'm just at the point where it's just now my job to just keep creating a legacy and keep empowering others. So yeah.
And I think you answered that perfectly. And if I can do the math, let's say college started around 2014, right?
Yeah.
2015, and then we're up to like 2018 now. Things are jumping off a little bit, and then 2023 exhibition that you're referring to. So I'm not good at math, but it took about 5+ years for pop
Yep.
to finally give you the recognition. Even if I don't understand, what I can do is empathize and think like, dang, like for that extended period of time, not receiving the support that you need, not only financially but emotionally, from from your loved one, it impacted you a lot. And I just again just want to applaud you because as you mentioned those different levels, I think you had to go through all that for you to get to where you're at now. And the next thing I want to talk about is actually how did you break through in the art world?
I went from school, graduated, and then my dad told I was gonna come back home, and I said no. And I went to DC. And in
Okay.
DC, I became a nanny, and I still worked at Michael's art store. One thing hit me in Michael's, I was doing stock up, I was a cashier, and it was like the Martha Stewart's. Someone came to ring a Martha Stewart letter, and I was like, she makes everything. Martha Stewart plates, towels, and I was like, I can do this too.
She don't play.
I can make any product, and she's not the one that designs it. And I was just like, I can literally enter homes virtually with through products and not just painting. And so that was something that kind of like stuck with me. And so I remember I'm not painting anymore. I'm in DC. My apartment does not really the facilities to paint again. And so I remember I bought an iPad. I only had like $500 in my account. And then the iPad cost like 450. So I just spent some money, bought that iPad because somebody asked me to do like, oh, can you do a logo? I was like, yeah, I can. No, I can't. But I was gonna teach myself how to do it. So I bought the iPad. I ate ramen for a week straight with my 50 bucks, managed it. And I was able to, the person paid me 800. So I was able to make my money back. And so that way I started to teach myself how to do digital works and graphic. So I started teaching myself Illustrator, Procreate. I started making some works with it. And I remember one guy in London bought one of these artworks I was selling online on my page, on my website still. Um, and he reached out and he sent an email saying like, oh, like, he thought he paid us 500 $600 for original painting. And I said, it doesn't matter how down I am. I'm at the point where I can never sell a painting for that low again. And so he said, why are you not painting? And I told him about like, I'm at the point where I don't have a facility. He pulled money together from, I don't know where he got funding from. And he started paying for my artist studio. And so I was in Maryland and I was in Silver Spring and then I started to paint again. So that's what I was doing. Like, that's a slow grind. And then COVID hit. COVID hit in 2020, and COVID affected people different ways. It's either they came up off PPP loans, it's either they lost their jobs, their business went under. A lot of things would happen for a lot of people. For me, it's that moment of for everyone being forced home was kind of what helped me. I used to have like 700 followers on Twitter. And I remember someone was posting like a Rick and Morty meme. And then I made a black version of Rick and Morty. And it went viral. And I had about 6,000 plus followers the
Right
next
after
day.
it went viral?
Yes.
Wow. See, that's when Twitter was fun though. I mean, Twitter,
Uh,
you know what I mean?
Twitter is crazy. You know, remember, everyone used to go viral then. We were going viral now, but for like the
Yeah.
worst things, you know? But I went viral for that. And then people were trying to make me think I was the meme girl. I was going to start making memes. I made a little few ones, but I was like, how to stop? Like, actually, I make products and things like that. And so that was happening. And then this guy I knew, she's like a personal trainer. I ran into him in Nigeria because like we were cool and stuff. And then he called me. He's like, "Hey, I think you should sell a product. Now that eyes are on you, you should sell something." And he's like, "And we can market it using Facebook marketing." And I was like, "I don't know." He's like, "I'll use my money for the first week to show you can make double back." So I had to find something that was a good price point. People don't have to think twice about. So I came up with 8 by 10, $20 prints. And I remember that first announcement of the prints being available for sale. We made like five times the amount that we put in marketing. And then it shot up with the Facebook market and everything. We will, of course, like we'll get some feedback and we'll fix it, you know. So we was like, oh, they're getting their prints damaged. We had to fix up and like make the structure of the packaging very structured so to like reduce damage. And I started to expand into like calendars, mugs, phone cases, started to do more stuff. I hired interns. I bought a house. I think that year of 2020, I spent $80,000 in Facebook marketing. You
Wow.
know, so I was ended up being how much we spent.
It's not even to touch how much you made off of it.
Yes. And so that of course, like the guy that helped me run all those things, like the marketing aspects, I gave him I think it was like 7.5% of sales, and that was my mistake. I should have made it profit. Because of course, as we started to like offer more products, the percentage obviously differs and changes. So he'll be basically making like 22% off a product, you know, and I'm here stressing, doing all these things, and sometimes I'll see him in Mexico. And I remember I reached out to him end of the year, and I was like, I think we're gonna end this contract, and he was like, that's fine with me. Like he knew he was up, he knew he was enjoying the fruits of the labor, and so by then now, and I also because the George Floyd thing. George Floyd was a very interesting time because then, because of the white guilt that was going on, then a lot of corporations started reaching out to Black creators. And at the time, Black creators we like started to add more ranges. Like there's a lot of focus on Black people and Black creators, so you start seeing a lot of push outs. That's when I started to land a lot of like pretty big gigs with like YSL, a few other brands like that. I just make sure I always do my best, and I'll also make sure that because the thing is that it's a trend. We need this to continue on. So I'd always make sure to keep in contact with people on that team and make sure I'm always the best in terms of communication and in terms of delivery because I knew that. And also that's the same thing for just the business itself. Always fixing up, always making sure our customer service is one of the best because we want to make sure people are talking about us, not coming to us, not because of guilt, because of trying to focus on support Black businesses, but actually because they believe in the customer service that we're given and also the product as well too. They're happy to have it. And then I remember I had a gallery reach out. They were like, do you even paint?" And I was like, "That's actually the basis of everything I do." They were saying I should do an exhibition in New York, and then I actually had applied for a master's program in New York at the time, and I realized at the same time I actually got accepted. And they were offering me a full ride, so I was like, "Gosh, let me just move to New York." And so in 2021, beginning of 2021, I moved to New York, and my show was that summer, and that was my first show. And I remember they were trying to push back and tell me that you can't keep selling prints, no one's gonna buy the originals, but that was not true. By the time when I came in at the opening, majority of those paintings were gone. Even the people to this day that have bought my paintings, a good amount of them own products as well too. Sometimes there's some people who are like women who say that they bought the prints first as gifts and things like that, and they knew like it was a goal for them to eventually buy a painting. And so it goes hand in hand. Or people who own the painting from the start and they bought the products and they just love it, and it's great to be able to gift to people and things like that. So I would say that's been my success, but I think the main thing for my success continually transparency. A lot of other artists that don't really talk this in depth. Like, I'm showing so much behind the scenes, a lot of thought processes that go on. And I just try to do that because art is the same thing as that communication. There is no clear blueprints to this. There's no clear blueprint for what I'm doing. Especially because I'm dancing between fine art and commercial. There's no blueprint for what I do. So I feel like it's good to be transparent because you never know who's looking in that can give an input, and also so that if I ever fail, you guys know when I failed. You guys are able to see it, and it's clear, as to what's going on. And with that, I realized that the core of everything I've been trying to do is community. I've been trying to create a community through my products, my art, and trying to bring people into my world. I realized that it extends outside of just exhibitions and things. There's so much other things. I started hosting field days. I started doing headshot events and just doing more things to bring people together through the concept of community and art.
That's awesome. And in terms of that community art, your own person, you're on a whole nother level. And I can't say that you are this particular person. But recently, I just visited Pittsburgh and I visited the Andy Warhol Museum. And when you talk about going in these different spaces and the transparency and just being your authentic self and invite other people in, that's kind of like who you remind me of. Have you ever like saw Andy Warhol type of vibes in yourself?
Yeah, so in terms of the artists that I look up to, I would say I really like everyone I like in different aspects of what they've done in their life or like just their personality. I would say in terms of not limiting myself to just one type of style. I would say I look up to David Hockney. Hockney's works have evolved over the time from where he started, the different sketches, the prints, the he's just done such a wide range of works, and that's how I knew I didn't have to limit myself and just be known for one style. In terms of being an artist that brings community together, there's this artist called Calder. If you ever think of babies, like that, the mobile, those things they hang over the kid's head, that it has sometimes that can be like different shapes and things like that. So
Yeah.
he's basically the founder of that concept. He would make artworks of things hanging from the ceiling, or he would make like immobile structures, which are like big structures. He's all over his you can see a lot of his works in DC, like the fine art museums in DC. So even though he did all that stuff, he used to entertain people. He would have friends come over, and friends were allowed to bring friends, and they would come to his house, and he would have circus shows. So he had puppets, all these circus puppets, and he would do different acts and stuff, and he would entertain the guests. And he was known to throw extravagant just events and things that he always brought his community together. And that's who stood out to me in terms of just being that community organizer. And it doesn't have to just be through like very distinct type of art. Like, you can be different ways to just bring community together. And so those are definitely the two people that have definitely inspired me.
Awesome. And being in the self-actualization level in your life now, what I can see in terms of that community building is just like the free range of just confidence. And not only confidence in who you are, but confidence in what you've been through and what you've got out of it. So in terms of like that community building, particularly, I know you talked a little bit about what you're doing now and who inspired you. I know you have an exhibition coming up. Tell us about what community building actually looks like in longevity wise for you.
Yeah, so this is my first time doing a solo exhibition in Nigeria. I did one 2 years ago. It was a group exhibition. I didn't like it. I feel like that it was kind of like like a final seal into my um how I felt about galleries at the moment. I feel like galleries don't really do as much as they need to, especially for they usually take 50% of the artist sales. And I feel like if you're gonna take 50%, because that's industry standard, what are you doing? If you're just putting the artwork on the wall and administration, that is not worth 50% of what these works are selling for. So what are you doing? In regards to doing a community, I feel being lost in a lot of these exhibitions. What I'm trying to do is bring that concept back in, because shows are usually up for like a month. It can be longer, and they'll just be up and they'll just post it online. But there's nothing that is bringing multiple parts of the community into those spaces to continue talking about it. There's so many intersectionalities. There's intersections between art and design and fashion. There's intersections between art and food. Like, there's just so many intersections, and you can bring multiple figureheads or just people in those communities to come and sit down and surrounded by art. And so for this exhibition, now, obviously the cost of living is so different than in America. So people cannot spend buy paintings at the capacity of what I sell in other parts of the world in America. And so it's like, how do you have an exhibition that people can partake in that removes the class divide, and anyone from the poorest person in Nigeria can experience it? and that is by doing an awambe exhibition. Awambe is a Yoruba word for party. And so if it's a new baby being born, a wedding, an announcement of something, graduation, they would usually give everyone to buy one specific pattern, and everyone will sew that pattern and come to party, you know? And so taking that concept of that, I decided to make a pattern, and the pattern is going to be printed on denim, mesh, satin, and like an Ankara fabric. And this is to allow people to sew something. I'm not trying to sew traditional clothes. That's because that's typically what it's used for. I want you to sew something that you can wear outside of this event, that you can wear as your own one of one. And Nigeria is already good for making clothes and fabrics. Everyone has tailors, so you guys already know what to do with a fabric. You know, the fabrics that are the low cost. It's not a forced entry, and you know, there's also some people who they don't want a pattern. So I'm also creating like iron on artwork that you can iron on your whatever piece of article of clothing as well. So it's just to give a wide range of options to come into the show. Coming out of the show, the product of the show is going to be an art book that comes out of this. It's going to be documented. We have it, an editorial photographers who will be photographing these people in a very famous Malian photography style with the pattern in the background, and it's going to be a really nice juxtaposition between the outfits of what people are wearing, and that's really capturing this very key moment in Lagos in 2025, you know. And so that art book is going to be called like I'm still working the name, but it's going to be a really nice coffee table book. It's going to be products being made as well too to give people different options to be able to enjoy outside of the show, be able to enjoy the product. So we're working on a jersey for AFCON. I'm working on T-shirts. We have a types of deck cards. You know, I'm really trying to make sure that because Nigeria is not my only. It's not just I'm doing Nigeria and I'm never doing Africa again. This is just the first stopping point. You know, the goal is to continually progress into other places. You know, and so that's why I said, you know, some people come in and say, "Oh, don't you feel like you're limited to Nigeria?" And I was like, "The attention is Nigeria. The attention is Nigeria, you know." And because I can always make broader things, like it's always gonna happen. But when it comes to the concept of creating something for an exhibition and making sure it ties in, it's very important to also take into account the culture and the things. And like I said, Nigeria is huge. There's so many people from all over the world who are from Nigeria and who live also outside the world. So the what cards is something that is very inherently Nigerian. And I feel like that kind of depth cards, it makes more sense to recreate it, especially because standard deck cards always have recreations, but a what card has never seen a recreation before. And so just taking those concepts and like tying it back into it. Even the t-shirts I'm making one that is very nostalgic. Like you said, different products, like things like cabin biscuit and just certain things from like the 90s that if you see it from that time period, you know what it is, you know? So just really trying to touch like different points of this basically big homecoming that I'm doing. And then the programming. We have guided tours we're doing. I've been trained gallery assistants. We have proper tours. It's not just you just come in and look at the art. You have the option to come and get a proper tour and you guys can talk in depth about the art. And then every Thursday we have programming. We're reaching out to universities, high schools, elementary schools, churches, government institutions, corporations to give an opportunity for them to come into the space and we can either host them or do an event or talk like you know literally bring in multiple aspects of the community into the space. So it's going to be up for 2 full months, and so that's basically like all the logistical aspects of what we're doing, and even as simple as the little details before you like come into the exhibition. There's going to be a suya guy outside. You want to get suya, even the paper that he wraps it in is my artwork on it. So like really creating a whole immersive experience is what I have been trying to do for this show. And for the first time, I have no limitations. No one's limiting me on what I can't do. I am running the whole show. I have people who are working under me. I have a whole staff. You know, every day I see people reaching out like, "Oh, I would love to work for you. I'll work for you for the show." I was like, "Guys, I've been working on this show for 2 years. Everything I need and wants, I already know what I need and want. Like, I'm not taking suggestions because there is no suggestions. This is I know my plan and I know what I'm doing and it's gonna happen exactly how I want it to happen. You know, at the end of the day, I also am self-funding. Like I work really hard in terms of like commercial. I would say like, do I care to really do commercial? No. But commercial is what's paying big amounts right now. And it's going to like I all this money I'm making, I don't use it. You don't see me wearing designer and like I don't use it for that. I literally use it to just fund more art stuff. It's like it's literally to just keep doing projects and keep doing things, you know? And so like even like all the money I'm gonna make from the show, it's just gonna go to the next show. and it's just gonna keep so I can just keep having more shows and self-funding that. So then that way no one is holding me back and telling me what I can and can't do. I can just go I can go. So I think it's good to make people excited again to come to exhibitions. Like people are excited for this. Like it's not just like people are generally excited and it's good to have that kind of excitement in the arts again. And it's not just an excitement for a one-time thing. It's to know that, we're even gonna do like workshops, like where we'll take different fabrics, everyone's gonna learn how to quilt with it. Like there's gonna be so much going on in that space outside of just that one opening. It's gonna be 2 months of community building, community outreach and impacting the community around us. So yeah.
So awesome. And if you can talk to us about maybe some of the hardships of being self-funded and running things on your own, because I think it's not an ego thing with you from what I'm sensing. It's like
Yeah.
it's like I worked hard for this and I deserve this because of the hard work that I put in. But then we can also understand that there's lots of nuances that comes with it in terms of doing things on your own. So talk to us about that and how you're able to leverage that into a confidence building factor or into the execution.
Self-funding is not easy, but it allows for me to really make sure that I'm as diligent as possible because every amount counts. It's not just money that was given to me. This is the money that I had to spend a lot of hours to make. And so it affects just the people I let come on. Like my time is not important because I know how much time it cost me to make that money to spend on this event. I have people that come wanting to join in for free. No, because someone has to spend the time to delegate tasks to you, to be accountable of you. That is extra time. And if you're not part of the original plan, I'm not taking any extra volunteers. Like that kind of thinking, being strict with it, knowing how much I spend, even when I hire personnel and hire a team, I am on top of them, but I also make sure I'm hiring the best because I am the one paying for it. And so that kind of diligent and confidence is it because I want that the people around me are also confident people who are very good at their tasks. Because the thing is that everyone can be good at something, but I need the best because when you do events, especially day of events, there's a level of logistics that need to be done and you have to be prepared for the worst. And so I can't have room for additional things that were not part of the original plan. And it's good. It's really good. I think being funding has definitely like pushed us to not deviate from the plan because you only have but so much to spend on, and do not go over your budget because in the day if you go over your budget that's actually going to hurt you. So it's just been long. The thing about self-funding is a very long path. It's not, like I said, it took me 2 years to get to this point. And my dad doesn't get it. Like, why are you spending the money? You need to be saving it. And I was like, saving it to do what? Buy a house. And then I buy the house and then what?
She's a creator, Dad. She's a creator.
I need to like and do what? You know? It's for a rainy day. If I don't create, that is the rainy day. Yeah, that's basically like my thoughts and processes with self-funding and how it's been going, and also getting people like I don't know how to ask for money or funding, but I feel like with everything I've been doing, I did get my first award ever this year with the Ciroc through the CCNY, CultureCon. So they're the ones that give you that 10,000 award. Like I don't even know. I didn't know if mom needed. I didn't know anything. I came in. I knew I got like added to the list. I was like, oh, cool. Like to their thing. I came and I'm literally walking. I'm at the bar. I'm getting a Sprite. I don't drink. I'm getting a Sprite, and they say, and then now we would like to award this award to an artist who has been inspiring all of us. I'm like, oh, what are you talking about? I'm drinking my Sprite. They said, oh, so chocolate. Lights are on me. I can't believe this shit. I'm like, what? And then they come with this, oh, stand here. He's like, oh, so what are you wearing right now? Like, cameras are on me, cameras are, well, what is going on here? But it was cool to experience that. And like, I just got another award nomination. So it's like good. Like, I think people are now seeing, I always say like, instead of waiting for them to come, sometimes do what you can do on your own accord. Someone's eventually going to watch. I'm getting reach outs to come and create products and do things like, how would they know I make products if I don't try and make my own on my own accord? If I don't make my own renderings, if I don't like, even if you don't have the money to do it properly, like at least still approach it at the capacity that you can do it because someone's watching.
I am just in it's a lot that I'm unloading and it's hard to unload it while you're actually on the show. So I just want to just thank you so much. I think you've given us lots of gems today. And I know any future artists or potential artists or anybody who is in the exact same situation as you or even prior when you was trying to develop yourself, we definitely have a lot to take away from this. To wrap things up, I just want to ask you in terms of like encouragement. How can I take that leap forward if I am somebody who is self-funded and I'm self-conscious about my work, although I know my work is generating not only revenue, but is generating foot traffic and people are telling me I'm doing a good job. How can I get out of that imposter syndrome to push through?
You know, imposter syndrome, yeah, that means you stuck on the esteem part. You gotta dig deep and figure out why you got imposter syndrome. You know, like, do you feel like the amount of hours you are? Do you feel like you have competition? Who is this competition? If you think it's competition, you have to break down logistically what they have over you and how you can overcome it. I've gotten to the point where I think my only competition is myself. I think I am my biggest competition. So that's even if I do have competitors, who cares? Who knows? I think I am my biggest. I think I'm the only one I can keep challenging myself to do better than my last, you know? And I think with that is why I don't really have something like a confidence thing. And I do have um imposter syndrome in terms of, being in two worlds. Like I'm not really a fine artist, you know. Um I snap out of it eventually, because the public thinks it's great. Looks like I'm a fine artist, as well. I would say one thing I can say, a little bit of advice is to people that when things are down or when things are unsure, you have to still work. You cannot freeze. When you freeze, even if those things pick up, you just lost all that time freezing because things are hard. You have to keep working at it. Even if it's not at 100%, at least 5%, you have to keep working towards that goal.
That's a great advice. I think you said it perfectly because you never know when an opportunity might arise. So
Yeah.
by you continue to be consistent and persistent, you know, because people watch you sometimes. You don't ever know who's watching you. And the moment you stop putting out that product and the moment you stop working on that particular thing, they're like, okay, they lose interest. And nowadays, everything is like microwavable, like
Yeah.
in terms of like our attention span and just like what people can pick up on. So that's a great advice. And your exhibition is happening in November and in December. How can people, like if I'm abroad or if I'm in Nigeria now, how can I sign up for it? How can I get involved? And how can I make sure I don't miss it?
Um, I would say follow the social medias right now. We're working on building the website for it in terms of like having information to buy fabric and everything like that. But I would say Instagram is the best bet. Follow me on Instagram, Uzo.art. There will be constant updates on that, marketing campaigns, everything towards that show. And the day of the opening, there also will be product launches on the American website as well to be able to order who are in America.
Perfect. Uzo, thank you so much. Before you go, tell me one thing that you would tell your younger self.
You're not over ambitious. Keep going.
Winner Circle Podcast, that is it. Thank you so much, Uzo Art, and thank you so much for our audience. I think you guys will be blessed with this episode. Take your time and really digesting every single thing that she said. If you have to rewind it, rewind it. If you have to play this slow, the playback speech, just slow it down some, do that. But I think it's lots to digest from this episode, and it's impacted me. And I know, as always, that's the point of our whole show. I know it will impact you guys. Thank you so much. Peace.